Today, we will read about the brain. This is an informational nonfiction text. Informational and nonfiction texts give us information and true facts that we can read about on certain topics. So today, the topic is the brain. The brain is divided into three main parts: the medulla, the cerebellum, and cerebrum. Each part has its own job to do. The medulla, or brainstem, is located at the base of the skull in the back, right where the spinal cord meets the brain. The medulla controls the important involuntary actions of the body, like breathing, heartbeat, and digestion. Involuntary actions are ones that you don't have to think about doing. Here's the side view: the cerebrum, the medulla or brainstem, the cerebellum. The cerebrum sits right next to the medulla. It is divided into two hemispheres or halves, so we're reading about the cerebellum. The cerebellum has several jobs. One of them is to control voluntary movement. That means that the cerebellum helps you walk, run, and jump. Voluntary actions are ones you do on purpose. The two hemispheres of the cerebellum control different parts of the body. The right hemisphere controls movement on the left side of the body. The left hemisphere controls movement on the right side. It might seem strange that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, but that's just the way we're made. So far, we've talked about the medulla or the brainstem, and we've talked about the cerebellum, which controls voluntary movement. The third part of the brain is the cerebrum. The cerebrum sits on top of the cerebellum and the medulla. It is the largest part of the brain. Each part of the cerebrum has a certain job to do. For example, the front part, just inside your forehead, controls emotions. The very back part, just above the brainstem, controls the sense of sight. The sense of touch is controlled by a strip of the brain running over the top of your head from ear to ear. The outside part of the cerebrum is called the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex is the wrinkly part of the brain that most people think about when they think of a brain. People sometimes call this part of the brain gray matter. The cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, just like the cerebellum. Until recently, we did not know much about what the various parts of the cerebrum do. But in the past few decades, we have learned a lot. Scientists now even have more advanced ways than just X-rays to look and observe different organs in the body, including the brain. They use something called a PET scan to see different parts of the brain work. A scientist may ask the person having a PET scan to do something like talk or blink his or her eyes. When the person performs different actions, different parts of the brain light up on the computer screen. Scientists have learned a lot about what happens where in the brain by looking at PET scans. As you can see from this image of the brain, some things we do take place in the left hemisphere, while others happen in the right hemisphere. This is the graphic. And that's the end of our reading.